Welcome back to the Crochet with Kelsey channel. I have a really fun video planned for us today. It is going to be a crochet along / tutorial of a project that you can make with scrap yarn. So ever since I started crocheting, I've been collecting little scraps of yarn that aren't quite enough to make a whole new project. And I think I finally have enough to where I can create an entire plushie just out of this yarn. So you might be asking, what are we going to be making today? And that's an excellent question. I will show you. This is the prototype. So this is a little bear that I made. I made him quite small so that if you only have a little bit of scrap yarn, you should be able to complete this project. But even if you don't have a bunch of scrap yarn saved up, you can still make this little guy in just a single color or whatever colors you want because he's still really cute. But I designed this pattern with a scrap yarn project in mind. So I'm going to be showing y'all exactly how you can make a little bear that looks just like this, and I will be using all my scrap yarn. So go ahead and get all of your scrap yarn collected and we'll go ahead and get started. Most of the yarn that I have here is a mix of Himalaya Dolphin Baby yarn and Parfait Chunky and some other various yarns. Like, I'm not really sure what this is, but it's about the same size as the other yarns. So as long as the yarns are somewhat uniform in size, you should be able to complete this project without a hitch. The prototype that I made is made in baby bear yarn, which is a little bit thinner, but still the projects turn out about the same size. So for this one, I used 20mm eyes, and I will be either using 20 or 25mm eyes for my scrap project, and we will discuss that whenever we get to that portion. So for this tutorial, I will be showing you exactly how to make a similar little bear, and I am super excited to see the outcome. I've been saving up my yarn for quite some time and I'm ready to get started. The other supplies you'll need for this project are a hook. So I am going to be using a 4.5mm hook for this. And then you will also need a darning needle to sew on a few of the parts. So for this plushie, all of the body is crocheted in one part, including the tail. And then all you have to do is sew the head on, and then you have to sew the little ears on, and then you have to embroider a little nose. So I used a thinner weight yarn to embroider the nose, but if you have some scrap yarn, this would be the perfect opportunity to use that. So once you have all of your materials gathered, let's begin. I also forgot to mention this earlier, but you will need some stuffing to stuff your little bear. So we're gonna go ahead and get started. I am going to start by making the limbs and then the tail. So all 4 of the limbs are crocheted the same way. So I'm going to show y'all how to crochet one of the limbs, and then you will repeat that process 4 times to make 4 different limbs. So I'm just gonna kind of randomly select from my scrap yarn pile to start. If I have a lot of one color of scrap yarn, I might kind of like cut it off and start with a new color just to have a good variety in this pattern. So it's a really good opportunity for you to get creative with the colors that you use. So we're gonna start with the first leg, and you are going to begin with a magic ring. And then you are going to do 6 single crochets into that magic ring. And this is actually a stitch marker that I made. I do sell some stitch markers over on my website. I definitely like the larger metal clasps because it is harder for me as a person that has longer nails to use the smaller clasps sometimes, so they are absolutely perfect for what I need them for. So go ahead and do 6 increases in the next round. And that will leave you with a total of 12 stitches in round 2. So for the next 3 rounds, we are going to just single crochet around. So that's 36 stitches in total. So that's 1 round complete, and I'm gonna go ahead and switch up my yarn right here to this nice pink color. Please forgive me if my yarns are knotted because I have not put them in this little basket in a very organized way. So just bear with me. So I'm gonna attach my new yarn. And then I'm going to do 12 single crochets around for the next round. And every time you attach a new yarn, go ahead and double knot the yarn tails on the inside before you cut the first color yarn. So now that that's secure, I'll go ahead and cut the old yarn color off. So then we have 1 more round of 12 to do. Now for round 6, we're going to do 2 single crochets and a decrease 3 times for a total of 9 stitches around. And then for rounds 7 and 8, we're going to do 9 single crochets around. And since I'm running low on yarn right here, I'm gonna go ahead and attach a new color. And at this point, you're gonna wanna stuff. So take some of your stuffing and make sure that the shape of the arm/leg is to your liking. And then we will stop stuffing at this point. For the next round, we are going to do single crochet, decrease 3 times for a total of 6 stitches. And then I'm going to go ahead and tie off that other yarn tail. And if you have any scraps that are this small, you can actually save them for stuffing some of the other parts later. And now we're going to do 6 single crochet around. Now we are going to close up the leg. So go ahead and flatten your piece like this. And then put your hook through the next stitch and the stitch that you just made, which can be kind of tricky sometimes. And then you're going to single crochet through both of those. And as you can see, it closes the top. So we're going to do the next 2 stitches and then the final 2 stitches. And there you have it. There is our first leg, and you can go ahead and fasten it off, cut your yarn. You don't need to leave a long tail because we will be crocheting these in. So there's the limb. I'm gonna go ahead and make 4 more of these, and if you want, you can go back to the beginning of the video and you can just repeat this process 3 more times. So I now have all 4 of my legs done. I think that they're looking pretty cute. They have a good variety of colors, and it's time for us to move on to our tail. So I'm hoping that I can finish the tail with just 1 scrap of yarn, but we'll just have to see. So for the tail, you're going to start by making a magic ring, and you're going to do 6 single crochets into the magic ring. And then close it up. Next, you're going to increase in each of the 6 stitches. And now you're going to decrease 6 times. And I can tell that I'm going to run out of yarn for the tail, so I'm gonna go ahead and attach a new color because you don't want to run out of yarn at the very end and crochet across the top, because then it won't stay together very well. Now I'm going to go ahead and tie off my yarn ends. And then we're actually not gonna stuff the tail, so I'm gonna cut any of these longer yarn ends off so that it's easier to close. And now we're going to flatten our piece and do 3 single crochets across the top. And then we can go ahead and cut our yarn, fasten that off, and we are done with the tail. There's no need to leave a long yarn tail because it will also be crocheted in. So now that we're done with our limbs and our tail, we're going to go ahead and crochet the body because all of those pieces will be crocheted right in. So I'm gonna start with this fun pom-pom yarn. And we are going to begin by doing 8 single crochets in a magic ring. Next, we're going to increase in each of those 8 stitches for 16 stitches. And then for the next round, we're gonna go ahead and do single crochet increase around for a total of 24 stitches. And I've run into a big tangle, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch my yarn color. And for this next round, we're going to do 7 single crochets and then an increase, and we're going to repeat that 3 times. And for our next round, we're going to go ahead and crochet our limbs and our tail in. So we're going to start by crocheting the tail in. So we're going to place our hook through one of those single crochets at the top, and then we are going to place our hook into the next stitch, the first stitch of the next round, and then you're going to do a single crochet to start. So for this round, we're going to do 3 single crochets total with the tail. And then we're going to do 6 single crochets. Then we are going to take one of our legs and do 3 single crochets through the leg. Then we are going to do 6 single crochets. And then another 3 single crochets with a leg. And then 6 more single crochets. And now our little legs and our tail should be attached with that round. And I think it's looking pretty cute so far. For our next round, we're going to do 7 single crochet, decrease 3 times around. Before you start the next round, I usually like to tie my yarn ends from the limbs together just for an extra layer of security. So I'm going to tie all 3 of those together. And you don't have to do it super tight. You don't want to change the shape of it. You just want to make sure that that yarn tail doesn't pop out. Just like that. So for this next round, we're going to do 7 single crochet, decrease. And you're going to repeat that 3 times. And remember to tie off your yarn tails as you go to secure the new yarn. For the next round, we're going to go ahead and single crochet around. That's a total of 24 stitches. And next we're going to do 2 single crochet, decrease around 6 times. And next we're going to single crochet around a total of 18 stitches. And as you can see in that last round, I tightened up my tension a good bit because this yarn is a little bit thicker than the rest of the yarns that I'm using. So if you have any yarns that are a little bit thicker, if you just want to tighten up your tension, it should make the stitches look uniform. And if you have any yarn that's a little bit thinner, you can loosen your tension a bit. For this next round, we're going to single crochet, decrease around 6 times. In our final round of the body, we're going to be crocheting in the arms. So we're going to start by doing 4 single crochets. And then we are going to do 3 single crochets with one of the remaining limbs. And then 2 single crochets on the body, and then take your final limb and we're going to crochet that in the next 3 stitches. And now you can go ahead and fasten off and leave a tail for sewing. Hide any yarn tails that may have popped out during the process, and then you can tie those 2 yarn tails together from both of the hands. Remove your stitch marker, and then you can stuff your body. And also in that last round, if you notice that your arms aren't really lining up with the legs, you can always adjust your stitches. You can add an extra single crochet or take one away so that your legs and your arms are symmetrical. So now you're done with your body. Honestly, I am loving the way mine is turning out. I'm hoping that you're liking yours as well. And it's kind of just like abstract art. So next we will go ahead and crochet the head and the ears, sew it all together, and then we're done. So next we're going to go ahead and start on the head. So we're going to begin our head by doing 8 single crochets into a magic ring. And for the next round, we're going to increase in each of the 8 stitches for a total of 16 stitches. For round 3, we're going to do 1 single crochet, increase 8 times around. And I'm gonna go ahead and switch yarn colors right here. And then for the next round, we're going to do 3 single crochets and an increase around 6 times. Now I'm gonna tie any loose ends that I had. So for the next 4 rounds, we're going to single crochet around. So that's a total of 30 stitches in each round, or 120 stitches total. So that's 1 round down, and now we have 3 to go. 2 rounds down, 2 to go. And then we just need one more round of 30. For the next round, we're going to do 3 single crochet, decrease around 6 times. And now it's time for the fun part, which is choosing some safety eyes. So here is the box that contains most of my safety eyes. And then I also have all of these to choose from. So I'm going to try a pair of 25mm eyes and see if those look good, and if not, I will do a different size. So I found this pair of safety eyes that I've had for a long time. I'm not exactly sure who made them, but I think since this is like a fun and funky project, these will look pretty cute with the colors that I have. So we are going to place our safety eyes between rounds 6 and 7, about 5 to 6 stitches apart. And I am using 25mm eyes for this project. So once you get your safety eyes to where you like them, go ahead and secure the backs. And I have this nice little tool that I use from Gurumi's Supply, and it makes it really easy to get your sinker eyes in. Now once your eyes are totally secured, it's time for the final round. So for the last round, you're just going to decrease around, which will leave you with 12 stitches. And then you can go ahead and fasten off your yarn. You don't need to leave a long yarn tail because we left a long one on the body to sew the head on. And then you can stuff it. And now your head is complete. Now that I'm looking at it, I kind of wish I would have used a brighter color of safety eye, just because It doesn't have a really great contrast with this purple right here, but that's okay. I still think it's cute. So now that we have our head and our body, there's only 2 more pieces to make, which are the little ears. So I'm hoping I can make each ear in just one color. They are only 2 rounds, so I think it's doable. So for round 1 of the ear, we're going to do 6 single crochets and a magic ring. And then for round 2, we're going to do 6 single crochets around again. And then we're going to flatten the piece and single crochet across. I'm going to cut the yarn tail of the magic ring just so that it's easier to single crochet across the top. And then fasten off, leaving a tail for sewing. So that's one of our ears. I'm going to make one more and then it's time for assembly. So now that we're done with our ears, it's time to sew. So if you have sewing sticks or Ami sticks or anything that will help you to place your pieces, that would be very helpful for this part. So we are going to place our ears between rows 3 and 5 on each side of the head. And I do them about 2 stitches back from the eye on either side. And whenever you're happy with the placement, you can go ahead and sew them on. And I like to tie a little knot to secure it at the end. And then hide the yarn tail. And then repeat with the other side. And now you have 2 ears for your little guy. Next, we're going to sew the head to the body. I normally like to stuff the body a little bit more, so I'm going to use any like little tiny scraps of yarn that I have to do that. You want to make sure that this area is stuffed really well because you don't want your head to be floppy. So go ahead and line up your head with your body. And I use this as an opportunity to get rid of all my little fluffies that escape me. So line it up and then use your Ammi sticks to hold it in place. And then it's time to sew. And now your little bear is almost complete, but there's one final touch, and that is the nose. So take a piece of your yarn, and I'm gonna use this color right here because it has a pretty good contrast with where the nose will be going on the face. And then you're gonna insert your needle coming out between rounds 6 and 7, so right in between the eyes. And I'm going to embroider 2 little lines across right here. And then I'm going to go down a couple of rounds right where the middle is. And you can totally leave it just as a nose if you want, but I like to do this little mouth detail right there. And then you insert your hook back through that middle stitch of the nose and exit where your starting yarn came from. And then go ahead and double knot that. And hide your yarn tails. And now you're done. So as you can see, I still have a ton of scrap yarn left over. I might be making a few more of these bears, but you can tell that it doesn't really take that much yarn. So even if you just have a little bit and you don't have as much as me, that's okay. You'll still be able to complete this. And if you need to add another skein that's more full to complete your bear, you can always do that as well. So here is Scrappy Bear's final look. I really think it turned out nicely, and I think that just goes to show that really if you just kind of throw some yarn together, like you can really make something special even if you didn't really plan it out beforehand. So I really think this would work with any scrap yarn colors that you might have, and I hope you guys enjoyed making your very own Scrappy Bear. If you made one, I would absolutely love to see how it turned out, so if you post it on here, be sure to tag me. If you post on Instagram, please be sure to tag me at Crochet with Kelsey. And even if you just made a regular bear, I'd love to see it too. So this is just the, sorry it got dark in here, so I had to turn my big ring light on. But these are the size differences between using like a parfait chunky size yarn and like a baby bear size yarn. So I think this is a weight 6 and this is a weight 5. So that's the difference. So you can make any kind of Scrappy Bear that you want. If you have a bunch of blanket yarn, you can make a big one. And if you have a bunch of acrylic, you can make a tiny one. So this pattern is really good for any yarn type, any materials that you want to use up, if you have some eyes that you need to get rid of. I really appreciate you guys watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Let me know if you want to see more tutorials. Please be sure to like and subscribe to get notified whenever a future video comes out, and I will see y'all in the next one.